First of all, I just want to say sorry for the inconsistent upload. Real life has been pretty busy, but thankfully I am back to my regular upload schedule. You might expect me to start spamming uploads for the next few days to make up for my almost 2 months of absence, but in any case, please enjoy the video. With the new version coming up, I think this is a good time to refresh what has been happening in the current patch, mostly the main Archon quest. The next patch Archon quest will be the rebuild of NATLAN post-war, and we can finally explore NATLAN in the next patch, which is quite exciting because it has been mentioned to us plenty of times in the world quests and in the artifacts. There are some connections between them, and this video will be divided into two parts where I'm going to talk about the main Archon quest and the theory section. Hint for the next video. Have you ever thought to yourself if Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail are within the same universe? I'm not talking about whether they're in the same imaginary tree or not, because we already know that Honkai series and Genshin Impact are within the same imaginary tree, but have you ever thought of Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact are within the same universe? As always, don't forget that this is a leak-free zone. Please don't comment anything related to leak content. Not only they're not confirmed, but it also ruins the player's experience and creates a lot of unnecessary expectations for many players. Also, don't forget to give this video a like and comment, because that lets this channel to be noticed by the algorithm. It also lets me know that I'm doing a good job juggling my time doing my final year project, being an artist and content creator. My name is Neko Gitsune and I make lore and commentary videos on this channel to keep you company. The quest starts with the Traveler and Paimon visiting NATLAN's branch of Adventurers Guild. According to Catherine, the situation has gotten worse. Ever since Moalani's acknowledgement by her ancient name, the Abyss starts to invade NATLAN a lot more frequently. However, Mavuika anticipated this and assembled messengers from Scions of the Canopy to gather intel and plan their defense from there rather than running when the attack occurred. Catherine tells the Traveler and Paimon to get some rest, and on cue, Kachina approaches the Traveler and Paimon, telling them that Shilonen is ready to meet them and discuss forging the Traveler's ancient name. This is where the third act of NATLAN's Archon quest officially starts, Beyond the Smoke and Mirrors. We finally arrive in Children of Echoes, and we meet We arrive in Children of Echoes, and we meet with Shilonen to discuss forging the Traveler's ancient name. However, Shilonen was not made aware that the Traveler is an Outlander, meaning creating an ancient name for him is impossible. Shilonen told us that ancient name needs a basis, and that is a heroic deed acknowledged by the Way Up, and needs to be done in NATLAN. Since the Traveler did his deeds outside of NATLAN, his deeds will not be acknowledged by the Way Up because he's also not a local. I think there's a little plot hole that everyone might be asking. Why does the Traveler need an ancient name in the first place? Well, the answer to that is because it is a crucial part of the plan. This will be important later, and you'll get the answer as we progress within the story. Despite this, Shilonen still accepted the job to achieve the impossible. The first thing we need to do is gain the acknowledgement of the Way Up for the Traveler's deeds, and perhaps need all 6 Way Ups of each tribe to acknowledge the Traveler. We first need to consult someone who is knowledgeable with the Night Kingdom, and Shilonen suggests finding Citlali from Masters of the Night Wind for help. However, since we broke her Spirit Speaker Stone in the last quest, it might be even harder to try and get help from her because she is quite eccentric and doesn't like to get disturbed. Despite this, however, Shilonen still tries to help by writing a letter to her and asks Kinich to send a letter to her, hoping that Citlali will accept the proposal with Kinich as the negotiator and emphasize that this is an important order from Mavuika. After losing another 50-50 to Kainari, we meet with Kinich and he accepts the job to send a letter to Citlali. He shared his intel that the person who aided Capitano was Auroron, someone from Masters of the Night Wind who was seen most of the time in the wilderness and more than often far from his tribe. Because of this, his disappearance went unnoticed, and Citlali is the first person who noticed this disappearance. In order to increase the odds, Kinich suggests using this as a leverage so Citlali will help us. It's a win-win situation. Citlali will help us forge Traveler's ancient name, while we help Citlali to find Auron to see whether Auron voluntarily helped the Fatui or was coerced by them. Few days passed and we visited Shilonen again. Unfortunately, Citlali did not respond to the letter. Shilonen suggests visiting the stadium anyway as promised from the letter she wrote to Citlali, and as expected, Citlali doesn't come. After Paimon trash talks Citlali for some time, Citlali appears out of nowhere, looking pissed because she heard everything that Paimon just said. Citlali already planned to attend the meeting regardless, but did not write a reply only to write understood. She jokingly said she had arrived for some time and was thinking how to apologize, but was a bit scared to approach us because Paimon trash talked her. Now I have to say, this scene feels so painfully true for me. As you can see, I am an ambivert, but before that, I used to be an introvert. Maybe an extreme introvert, in fact. And seeing this scene makes me painfully cringe because I used to be like that back then. Kudos to the writers for making this scene as accurate as possible, and as painful as it can get. Anyways, as promised from the letter, the traveler proposed to Citlali to find Auron in exchange for Citlali to help them forge an ancient name for the traveler. Citlali agrees and tells Shilonen to meet the Lord of the Night after we find Auron. According to Citlali, the way-ups are not enough to decide whether an outlander fits their criteria to get an ancient name or not, and this kind of thing can only be decided by the Lord of the Night, who is the ruler of the Night Kingdom and constantly uses the power from the Sacred Flame to combat the corrosion against the Abyss. In any case, the Lord of the Night is currently in a state of slumber, and the only way we can communicate with them is in the form of dream. Citlali gives a list of needed items to Shilonen while the traveler and Citlali explore the area to find Auron. Just for a reminder, we learned the Lord of the Night from the Obsidian Codex artifact set. We will learn more about them later within the quest, I promise. As for little spoilers, this will be a very good news for Columbina mains. We arrive at the spot where Auron was last seen. Citlali then tells us that Auron is an orphan found on a street and raised by everyone in Masters of the Night Wind. As he grew older, he built his own house in the countryside and spent most of his days raising crops and aphids. He even gave his crops to people very often. Male wife, what you really did. Wait, what? In any case, we can safely say that Auron is a good person, and this leads Citlali to believe that Auron is coerced by the Fatui. Because Auron raises aphids which are rich in phlogistans, Citlali then lends her power to the Traveler and Paimon, allowing them to see phlogiston trails left by Auron. However, this leads to the Traveler and Paimon being able to hear what Citlali is thinking, but Citlali cannot hear what the Traveler and Paimon are thinking. We found a lead that Auron left a distress signal that only Masters of the Night Wind can recognize, which led to the gang to believe that Auron was indeed coerced by the Fatui. This of course made Citlali worry about Auron way too much in her head and was getting a bit of herself when Paimon praised her for her abilities to detect elemental energies. I swear to god, they made Citlali way too relatable to introverts. It is way too real and almost feel like a personal attack to some degree. The Traveler, Paimon, and Citlali split up as the phlogiston trails are jumbled up. After they're split up, the phlogiston trail oddly stops midway. While the Traveler and Paimon trying to figure things out, the Traveler hears a man's voice. He then passes out and is sent to the Night Kingdom. We meet with Auron for the first time, and he reveals that he is not within the Fatui's custody, but in fact, working with the Fatui by his own choice. The distress signal was a lure to get the Traveler to the Night Kingdom because it is a realm that Masters of the Night Wind is very familiar with, including Auron himself. We finally meet Capitano. Unlike other Fatui Harbinger, he shows some respect to the Traveler and invites him to have a meeting with Capitano and Auron outside of the stadium. He however requested the Traveler to not tell anyone about this. As the Traveler's soul is back to the real world, he finds Citlali and Paimon worry sick about him suddenly passing out. The Traveler decides to not tell Citlali and Paimon anything that happened in the Night Kingdom. They rest for some time before continuing to find Auron. After a moment of rest, they found Auron being held by the Fatui. Citlali has her Asian mother moment and is understandably angry when she hears Fatui being rude to Auron. Of course, because she is having her Asian mother moment, Citlali is furious with Auron after we defeated the Fatui goons, scolding him in the process. Auron tells Citlali and the others that he is okay, and claims that he is doing what he did to protect Citlali from the Fatui. Of course, Citlali gives Auron another scolding for underestimating her too much, and she tells him to tell Mavuika about his innocence with the defeated Fatui as evidence. Side note, I'll be making Auron's design analysis after 5.2's release just like what I did with Emily, so stay tuned. We bring Auron to the speaker's chamber, and as for what Mavuika will do to him, we'll have to wait for a few days. With that said, Sidlali did not forget with her deal and will help the traveler forging his ancient name. After waving goodbye, Oron gives the traveler a side-eye, reminding him of a meeting that they promised. The traveler then tells Paimon about his meeting with Capitano and Oron in the Night Kingdom. Paimon being a loudmouth, she screams the captain's name, but regardless, she will support the traveler's decision and decides to tag along with him. The next night, the traveler and Paimon meet with Oron and Capitano right outside the stadium. Capitano says something very interesting. He basically says rather than having to confront the traveler, he'd rather have him on his side, and colliding with the traveler is something that he wants to avoid. He is perfectly aware that the traveler has collided with the Fatui many times, but he also knows that the traveler is a reasonable person. With that said, Capitano reveals that there is another way to prevent NATLAN's crisis, and this is something that Mavuika is trying to hide from everyone, including the acknowledged heroes. There is a good reason for this, and that's because there's a very heavy cost to be paid. Capitano doesn't reveal what the cost is just yet, but considering that the Abyss's invasion has gone more frequent as of late, we have no time to wait for the other two heroes to be acknowledged by their ancient names. Even if they were acknowledged, will it be enough for them to defeat the Abyss? Because if Mavuika continues with this gamble further, not only this will be the end of NATLAN, but also the end of Teyvat. In order to get Mavuika to her senses, Capitano proposes to help her make the decision right here and now. Paimon pointed out how hypocritical Capitano's proposal is. He wants to make the decision for Mavuika, but he also wants to seize the Gnosis for himself. This is where the true plan has come up. Capitano wants Mavuika to use the Gnosis. However, he also reveals that he has no interest in seizing the Gnosis anymore since he lost his battle to Mavuika. Despite that, his wish to save NATLAN remains unchanged, and he has found another way to save NATLAN without the Gnosis. As Capitano about to reveal his proposal, something approaches them from afar. Capitano flees and Sidlali, out of nowhere, punches Oron on his stomach. Finding suspicions that her ritual tools suddenly went missing, an unconscious traveler from yesterday, Sidlali has come to a conclusion that Oron is indeed working with the Fatui. And of course, she is very angry and disappointed with Oron. Paimon and the traveler calm Sidlali down, and Sidlali decides to save the scolding for later in the stadium. Midway, Sidlali interrogates Oron on his deeds, but Oron does not answer any of her questions. This of course further disappoints Sidlali, and Oron apologizes to the traveler for hearing this awkward encounter. Sidlali assures Oron that this has nothing to do with his duty, and the ley lines are in huge mess not because of him. Sidlali tells him to forget about it as it is a chapter that they already concluded. Oron also tells Sidlali that it has nothing to do with that, and he apologizes to Sidlali for deeply hurting her feelings. But oddly, his voice starts to disappear despite him being very close to them. In an instant, Oron has gone farther to the other side and fled, telling everyone that he has to do everything to save NATLAN. Basically, he created an illusion from spores and sprayed it in the air. Of course, this further angered Sidlali and further hurt her feelings. Honestly, I can sympathize, especially that Sidlali is a mother figure to Oron. Imagine having your child suddenly hide everything from you. That must have been very painful because you have thoughts that your child might no longer trust you. In any case, Oron is not willing to share the plan with Sidlali, and with the current situation, asking Capitano is no longer an option either. So, the best way to do this is to ask Mavuika directly and confirm what Capitano said to her. But in the meantime, it's better to comfort Sidlali. We bring Sidlali to the very inn, and, well, she is drunk, of course. Most of the things you see here are, of course, things you see when someone is drunk. I'd say it's quite fun to watch her in this state, but please don't do this at home. While Sidlali sleeps with her eyes open, she reveals a prophecy to some extent. Behind this pitch-black curtain, a chapter of hatred reveals itself. Behind the smoke, the lingering smoke. Warning, warning. Red, the red color of anger, has arisen with the pair of eyes. If you have finished the Archon quest, I'm sure this reminds you of something. After Sidlali has gone somewhat sober, Sidlali apologizes for making the traveler and Paimon see her in that kind of state. She wants to speak a lot, but is unable to because, well, they just met for a few days, and dumping all of her problems will make the traveler and Paimon think less of her. The traveler then reveals that he and Paimon knew what she was thinking in her inner mind when we were searching for Auron, causing Citlali to be understandably embarrassed. Citlali then asks the traveler and Paimon to accompany her on a walk to catch some fresh air. Here we get to see a more vulnerable state of Citlali. Apparently, a lot of people in her tribe are scared of her or dislike her in general because she is too strong and no one can be as strong as her. Because of this, she has trouble making friends. People either fear her or just don't like her in general. We also learn more about Auron from this conversation. As we learned from before, Auron is an orphan, abandoned by his parents. He was found in the wilderness and was lucky enough to be found by people from Masters of the Night Wind. Auron's soul is incomplete, and to the Masters of the Night Wind, this is viewed as a bad omen. Masters of the Night Wind sees Auron as a sacrificial lamb in order to save NATLAN. At the time, Citlali, as a huge figure in her tribe, did not necessarily approve, but neither did she object to this at all. Because of this, the ceremony started, but it unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately in this case, failed, and Auron survived this ordeal. Being a mother figure to Auron, of course, made Citlali extremely guilty because she is supposed to be her guardian at one point, but she just let the ceremony go regardless. However, she is also glad the ceremony failed. Despite this, Auron neither was sad or happy. In fact, he felt guilty, and even questioned whether NATLAN would be saved or not if the ceremony was a success. Perhaps this is also the reason why he collaborated with the Fatui in the first place. The feeling of owing a debt. Everyone decides to convince Auron to go back. Citlali went back to rest while the traveler and Paimon decide to tell Mavuika about what they learned from Capitano the next day. The next day, the traveler and Paimon wake up to a commotion. Citlali tells them that the Abyss has invaded once again, and Citlali needs to go back to Masters of the Night Wind to defend her tribe. As for Auron, Citlali thinks it might be best to leave him for now, considering that he is not a child anymore. Citlali assures the traveler and Paimon that she didn't forget her bargain regarding to the ancient name and left the stadium. At the stadium's entrance, we meet with Chaska, Koichi, Moalani, and Yansan. They tell the traveler and Paimon about the increasing abyssal attack in the Collective of Plenty, Masters of the Night Wind, and Children of Echoes. Before we join them in the battle, the traveler and Paimon decide to talk to Mavuika first to confirm Capitano's words. Mavuika tells the traveler and Paimon to keep it a secret and confirms that the Gnosis can indeed avert the crisis that they're facing. However, there's more to the story. In exchange for the Gnosis' power, there's heavy price needed to be paid. The souls and memories from the Night Kingdom will be drained by the Gnosis, weaving into a giant net and protecting the ley lines from the Abyss. The Night Kingdom, as you already know by now, is not only a house for dead souls, but also where memories and legends from the heroes of NATLAN reside. Using the Gnosis for that reason will make more sacrifice, and the net weaved by the Gnosis can still be corroded by the Abyss, making all the sacrifice turn into nothing. Considering how grave the price needs to be paid, Mavuika rather go with the current plan as it is also equally risky than the other. Paimon also tells Mavuika about Capitano's other plan to save NATLAN without the Gnosis. Mavuika doubts about this plan, but there's no reason for Capitano to lie. We will get our answers when the investigators Mavuika sent comes back. Mavuika also updates that the situation has slowly gone dire and decides to enter the battlefield herself. After that conversation, the traveler and Paimon go to the Children of Echoes to help with the abyssal attack. The battle, I have to say, is a bit harder than I expected. It could be because we are using a trial team and the trial team don't necessarily have the best artifact set, but I can feel the enemies are a lot more tankier than usual. The traveler also shared the captain's intel with everyone else, and Kachinak pointed out something interesting. If Capitano is from Sneshnaya, why does he know all of this? Why would a Fatui Harbinger want to save NATLAN? We head back to the stadium and head to the speaker's chamber. Here, Mavuika shared her intel with Chaska and Koichi as a witness. Basically, they found some Fatui goons along the way and decided to tail them to find some evidence. Surprisingly, they found that the Fatui were protecting some NATLAN citizens. While protecting them, they also found the Fatui trying to dig a draconic relic called Source Mechanism. According to Chaska, barely any information regarding to this device even survives until this day, and not even the locals know how to use them. Mavuika theorizes that the source mechanism might work just like the Gnosis, which she got the point because Capitano's initial plan was to use the Gnosis, and if we follow his logic, he might need something similar that works just like it. Mavuika asks Shilonen to find scholars that are familiar with the subject, and as for everyone else, Mavuika tells them to get some rest and will tell everyone if she found anything new about the source mechanism. We accompanied Chaska and Koichi to the outskirts of the stadium. We get to see them argue again, just like how siblings should be. After they left, Citlali appears and tells them that she found a way to find Auron. Because Auron's soul is fragmented, Citlali created a talisman for Auron to keep his soul stable. The talisman needs to be changed from time to time, and knowing that Auron needs the gem because of how important it is, but will keep his guard up, Citlali asks Eva, Auron's friend, to give the talisman to him in a supply bag. The moment Auron made the switch to the talisman, so are his memories, as the old talisman records all of his older memories. After a moment of doubt from Citlali, they finally look at his old memories. Here, we found Capitano asking Auron about Citlali's whereabouts. Worried about Citlali, Auron tailed Capitano, but despite knowing Auron was tailing him, Capitano did not act right away and let Auron tail him silently. Auron witnessed Capitano able to use a difficult spell from Masters of the Night Wind. He even witnessed that Capitano is indeed trying to save NATLAN. The next memory, we found Auron continuing to follow Capitano. This time, the day where Auron saved Capitano from Mavuika. After saving Capitano, Auron told him about his doubts regarding Mavuika. The ley lines are extremely weak, and no one knows what Mavuika is planning. Adding to his guilt, he felt obligated to save NATLAN at all cost, feeling he owes a huge debt to the nation. Finally, after Auron tells of his relationship with Citlali, Capitano further tells that the knowledge of the Night Kingdom is an important asset that he needs to know, and Citlali is the only person who can communicate with the Way Up directly. As to what he needs it for, he didn't tell him right away. This is where Auron and Capitano reached to an agreement and started working together. In order to save NATLAN, they devised a plan to reconstruct the ley lines itself. Knowing all this information, of course, Citlali is mad at Auron. But in any case, everyone discussed what they saw, and Paimon made a good point. It felt familiar to some case. Yes, it is similar to the Loom of Fate. But the difference is that Loom of Fate creates ley lines from nothing, while the plan that Capitano wants is to reweave it, which is different. Perhaps finding the source mechanism has something to do with it. Everyone decides to tell Mavuika about this, and this is where the third act of NATLAN's Quest ends. We still have a long way to go, so I suggest you to get some snacks while we're at it. The Traveler, Paimon, and Citlali arrive at the speaker's chamber and tell Mavuika about Capitano's plan. Indeed, just like using the Gnosis, reconstructing ley lines will sacrifice everything within the current ley lines, which again is something similar to the price of using the Gnosis. Now I am sure some of you might not understand why Mavuika is very against it when the plan has something to do with ley lines. So here is a quick reminder for you. Ley lines are networks for elemental energy and memories of living beings that live in both Teyvat and the Abyss. Each nation has its own set of stable ley lines, but NATLAN has never had any stable ley lines from the very beginning. The Night Kingdom acts as a substitute for this, as it has both the memories of NATLAN and people who live in it, which is why Mavuika is so against using the Gnosis for this reason. Reweaving or reconstructing ley lines will erase the memories of people that live in it, and it's not a complete fix either, since the Abyss can always invade the nation again at any given moment. Not only that, because people of NATLAN's lives are tied to the Night Kingdom, reweaving ley lines will cause them memory loss and mental issues. It is pretty much the reason why people of NATLAN can't leave the nation from the very beginning, and Mavuika already reveals this to us in the last quest. Mavuika tells Citlali to go back to Masters of the Night Wind to protect her tribe from the Abyss. In the meantime, Mavuika calls Shilonen and Kinich to help find Capitano, as Mavuika already found his location from her intel. They devise their plan with Shilonen, the Traveler, and Paimon coming along with Mavuika, while Kinich acts as a distraction for the Futuist defenses. With that said, this is where the fourth act of NATLAN's World Quest officially starts. The Rainbow Destined to Burn. On our way, we entered a ruin where Capitano and Oron finally set their plans in motion. As they fight, a loud screech suddenly appears, causing Oron to get out of control and attack Shilonen at the speed of light. Capitano is able to protect Shilonen in the meantime and reveals something unexpected. Oron is not Oron. Someone else has inhabited Oron's body. He refers to Capitano as commander and reminds him to win, but Capitano replies back with how he can't just abandon his comrades. The person also refers to Oron as someone who is about to die, and then we enter Oron's inner world. In it, Oron reminded of his old memories, where he was always protected by the tribe, yet he is unable to protect them. Even if he is not meant to be sacrificed, he questions the meaning of his existence. On cue, another soul by the name of Guthred appeared and insulted Oron, telling him to give up and give his body to him. As soon as Oron's soul finally shatters for good, Guthred temporarily owns Oron's body and serves Capitano until the very end. As you can imagine by now, this person is a Khaenri'ahn, and judging from the way he spoke to Capitano earlier, it's no surprise that they're acquainted. In fact, he even called Capitano commander. So, does that mean... Of course, being insulted by Guthred does not waver Oron at all. Despite his shattered soul and on the verge of dying, Oron fights back and remains strong. His will to live remains as he still wants to find his own meaning of living and wins against Guthred in a battle of mentality. With Mavuika guiding him, he is able to return to the real world. The moment he is back, everyone is relieved that Oron made it. Oron further questions his meaning of living, and all of his questions are answered. His ancient name acknowledges Oron. Sanhach appears in front of everyone, granting Oron the memories of the past and words of encouragement. BD, meaning devotion. You will not give your all for the sake of heroic death, but to do justice by the answer you found in your life. For that answer, you will offer all of your strength and be born anew. Through your devotion, you will prove your worth. I like that. And for me, as someone who is also trying to find the meaning of life, this scene surely made me so happy when I played this part. I don't know, it just kind of resonated within me. With that said, the fifth hero has finally awakened, Oron of Masters of the Night Wind. That leaves one more hero. As Oron finally acknowledged, a voice appears from the mechanism, and turns out this voice also the one who cried in pain. Mavuika refers to this person as Lord of the Night, or one calls herself as Yohwal Techuhtin. Because of her weak state, she cried in pain the moment Capitano and Oron activated the device. The device created a sound that agitated souls, and since Oron is an incomplete soul, this caused Oron's soul to almost shatter in the process. But Oron is able to fight back from his strong will. Another soul, not from NATLAN nor from the Night Kingdom, also got affected and took refuge into Oron's body. As you can guess, she meant Guthred. However, Capitano asks how come that the device awakened Yohwal Techuhtin instead of reviving the ley lines. That's because Yohwal Techuhtin is the one who created NATLAN's ley lines, or as you already know by now, the Night Kingdom. When the Heavenly Principles and the dragons fought each other years ago, it also destroyed a corner of the world, allowing the Abyss to invade. NATLAN's ley lines took the worst damage of them all. In order to fix this, Yohwal Techuhtin reassembled the shattered pieces of the ley lines and created the Night Kingdom to act as a similar network. Xbalanque strengthened the realm in order to fight the Abyss, with the Oath of Resurrection and the Pilgrimage as the practice that still survive until this day. This device was meant to be used for the dragons of old back then to strengthen the ley lines, but it was ineffective because they lacked the knowledge to navigate the structure of them. Since the structure of ley lines have completely changed, Yohwal Techuhtin is the only possible fuel to power the device, and she is the only fuel that can reconstruct ley lines with the cost of her life. People of NATLAN worship her and even called her Lord. In the past, before Yohwal Techuhtin died out, people of her kind were known as angels, or people nowadays only see their default form, known as Seelies. Kalambina mains, I know you're excited because this opens up more possibilities and further confirms that Kalambina is a Seelie, or perhaps the only angel that is yet to devolve. This also explains why there's a Seelie that helped us during our exploration in the Night Kingdom. We'll talk more about this in my next video, promise. With that said, Yohual Techuhtin is also confirmed to be a Sili to some extent, and the remaining angels and Silis of Natlan offered their power to Yohual Techuhtin in order to rebuild Natlan's ley lines. Yohual Techuhtin asks Mavuika to give the order, but of course, Mavuika refuses this. This pisses Capitano as he reveals that he is from Kaenria, and an eyewitness from what the Abyss has done to his home. The unforgettable pain, the homeland, the family, and comrades he lost has haunted him to this day, and he wants to save Natlan whatever it takes, no matter the sacrifice that needs to be made. However, Mavuika also remains strong with her ideology. Yes, if they believe in humanity, a new civilization might be born and flourish. But at the same time, the Abyss could invade again, and all the sacrifices will be for nothing. Auron intervenes in their argument and tells them how much he wanted to save Natlan. While he can see the chance of survival with Capitano's plan, he also don't want to forget the people he cherished the most. At the brink of death, Auron remembered all of the people that made him who he is today. All the heroes are sacrificed for them to survive until this day, and in reweaving the Leylands will also make their sacrifice for nothing because to the people of Natlan, past heroes' sacrifices is also their blessing. With all the words from Auron and Shilanen agreeing with Auron's words, Capitano gives in and gives up with the plan to reweave ley lines. Considering they are only short in one hero, Capitano aids the people of Natlan by ordering the Fatui under his command to aid Natlan in the war against the Abyss. Yohual Techuhtin's offers still stand whenever Mavuika changed her mind. With that said, Natlan has gained a formidable ally. You may now kiss the bride. Wait, what? Everyone leaves the ruins to update the plan with the others, except for the Traveler as he has questions that needs to be answered. This is where we got the juiciest Lord Nuclears, and since there are some older lore being mentioned by Yohual Techuhtin, I will remind you some of them while I tell some of the information we get from her, so get ready. Since some of these are quite spicy in themselves, I'll start with the least to the most interesting one. Starting with the ancient name, since Shilonen did not inform Yohual Techuhtin because Sitlali is not here, she will tell them what to do in the form of dreams, and even call Sitlali a young girl. Yes game, make it more ambiguous, I love it. We ask Yohual Techuhtin about the power from the heavens, and she reveals that the Shades don't like being referred to by their real name, whether by any living being or by the Seven, which is quite aligned with how people of Enkanomiya don't refer to Astaroth by her real name, and even reveal her name backwards. A also don't refer to Astaroth's real name with her real name, but refers to her as the higher power. Pranova is the Shining Shade of Death, and this is the second Shining Shade we know of, with the first being Istaroth, the Shining Shade of Time. Yohual Techuhtin revealed that the Shining Shade of Death, or also known as Pranova, aided Yohual Techuhtin in creating the Night Kingdom. It was an act of love, but since she overstepped her authority as a Shade, she ended up angering the Heavenly Principles. As you can see, Yohual Techuhtin is about to reveal Heavenly Principles' real name, but she stopped herself. But if you're a lore player, we do know of their real name already, that being Fanes, revealed in the Book of Sun and Moon. I swear, everything will always go back to this book again. Really shows how much of an influence the Book of Sun and Moon is. Because of this, Pranova fell into self-pity and no longer cared whether people discussed her identity or not. Her existence remains unknown until this day, and only a select few knows about her existence. I think we can safely say that Pranova and Yohual Techuhtin don't like the Heavenly Principles. Now that I think about it, no one does at all. Lumin hates them, the dragons hate them, Fossilor and Archon hates them, and now even Pranova and Yohual Techuhtin, a shade created by the Heavenly Principles and an angel, hates them. Bro got so many haters, yet we haven't even met them yet. In any case, there is however more evidence regarding Pranova's existence from the mural we saw in the World Quest, and I already deciphered this mural from my last video. Again, we'll get into more theory crafting in my next video. We also learn more about the elemental energy and the abyss. She refers to phlogiston as a primitive form of elemental energy, and the Heavenly Principles use phlogiston as a base in creating elemental energy to better counter the abyss. She also mentions whether we know about the light realm and the human realm, but ended up not explaining about it because it might take too long to explain. But lucky for you, that's why I am here, so let me explain it in the shortest way possible. We learn about the light realm and human realm from, once again, Enkanomiya. I cannot stress you enough how important Enkanomiya's lore is because it is one of the most fundamental things that is stave at, so when I have the time, I'll make a beginner lore guide for newbies entering Genshin's lore in the future. Anyway, there are three realms in Teyvat, that being the Light Realm, Void Realm, and the Human Realm. Light Realm is where raw elemental energy resides and also where dragons and fishships reside. Sometimes this realm is also called the Fishship Realm because of their origin. The second is called the Void Realm, or commonly known as the Abyss. The third is the Human Realm, a new realm created by the Heavenly Principles when they triumph against the Seven Sovereigns and create humanity. Now I can see why you're starting to question yourself. If there are three realms in Teyvat, why do humans and fishships live together in one realm? That's because it is in one space. Light Realm, Human Realm, and Void Realm are part of Teyvat, which is why we can see all three beings in one space. All three have their own analogous concepts. Light Realm with elemental currents, Void Realm with dark currents, and Human Realm with ley lines. While Light Realm and Human Realm are not compatible towards each other, at one point they worked together in order to halt the Void Realm's encroachment because the Void Realm by nature is destructive and dangerous to elemental beings. That should be the explanation of the three realms. Light diffracts into 7 colors that we know as a rainbow, and elemental energy is the same concept as that. If we combine with the explanation I just gave you, this means that the Light Realm and the Human Realm do work together in order to halt the Abyss or the Void Realm away. Whether it's voluntarily or involuntarily by the sovereigns or fishships, it is the reason why elemental energies are the most powerful thing that can counter the Abyss. In any case, there's more to it about these three realms that we yet don't know of, so until there's a future quest that will reveal more about this, we'll have to wait and see how this goes. Finally, the Loom of Fate, to which Yhwach Justin says she never heard of such device. However, she did say that this device seems to be a better option for people of NATLAN if they have such power. As a small reminder, Loom of Fate is a device that can weave its own ley lines, which is why Yhwach Justin said that could be a better option than what they are currently doing right now. This is also an operation currently the Abyss Order undertakes, and with its incomplete state, it can weave false memories and implant them into people, which is something that Carver did in the Bedtime Story Archon quest. Since the Loom of Fate is now complete, the device lost this function, and currently our sibling is trying to find a way to fully activate this device before the Heavenly Principles awakens. After our Q&A session with Yhwach Justin, we return to the speaker's chamber and Mavuika officially welcomes Capitano on our side. Mavuika decides to halt Auron's punishment for later, as she thinks it's better for him to prove himself in this dire time. As for how Capitano was able to find the source mechanism, he found 3 scholars by the name of Abaraba, Bosamwe, and Kukstal, which I noticed, why are their names in ABC? Mavuika never heard of these names, and according to Capitano, perhaps they live in seclusion. I have a feeling that these NPCs can be very important in the future quests, which is why I have to mention them here. We might even meet these guys in Ochka NATLAN, but fingers crossed. As for how Capitano knows about the Gnosis, during the Cataclysm, he fled to NATLAN along with his remaining soldiers, only to find NATLAN also fell into the same tragedy. Many people thought Kandrians were the root of the problem, but Capitano was able to befriend a chief from Masters of the Nightwind from that era by the name of Aizu and live together with him in that tribe. Since then, Capitano has made a vow to himself to aid people of NATLAN. Aizu is one of the only people that believe Capitano's innocence and helped him at the time of need while they fought together against the Abyss. Before the brink of death, Aizu told Capitano the secret of the Gnosis. This explains why Capitano knew about the Gnosis' power, and Mavuika even remembers how Aizu is trying to convince Mavuika to use the Gnosis on many occasions. This is also aligned with the Kandrian soldiers we saw in the Salver's Veins in the World Quest, because they could be one of Capitano's comrades. But how does Mavuika not remember Capitano? He fought with Aizu, and knowing Mavuika is someone from 500 years ago, she should have known him, right? While it's true it's from the mask, Capitano dubs she will remember his face anyway because of the Curse of Immortality. Just as a refresher, Kandrians are cursed by the Curse of Immortality by the Heavenly Principles, while the not pure-blooded Kandrians are cursed by turning into monsters, or we know them as Hilichers as of today. However, we learn more from Capitano that his face continues to rot and decay despite being immortal, which makes sense why he hit his face in the first place. I suppose you can say he is kind of similar to Deadpool. Capitano knows who Dainsleif is, but he has only heard of his name ever since his life in Khaenri'ah. The last time he saw Dainsleif was during the travel with the Traveler's sibling, and it's pretty much why Capitano doesn't want to fight us in the first place, because we are the brother of Khaenri'ah's princess. As for how Dainsleif is able to slow down his deterioration of his body, Capitano has no answer to that. Also, fun details given here. During Capitano's battle with Mabuika, neither of them are using their full strength. Capitano is unable to use his because of his body's deterioration, while Mabuika just did not use her full strength at all. Bro, what? This makes them even more badass. Anyways, because of the battle, Capitano failed to obtain the Gnosis. However, he doesn't seem to mind that much about it because the Choir Archon, the Tsaritsa, gives the Harbingers to live freely to find the meaning of their lives. Once the time comes, their freedom can take precedence over her orders, and this is quite aligned with what Arlecchino said when we asked her about the Tsaritsa. When the time comes, she will raise her weapon against her without any hesitation. Because of this freedom, it's also the reason why the Harbingers have completely different methods despite sharing the same goal. He needs the Gnosis to save NATLAN, and if the Gnosis is still in his possession, he can return it to the Tsaritsa. Of course, Mabuika's decision regarding to the Gnosis remains unchanged, and it would be best to focus their attention on the Abyss first. Mabuika reveals further how her plan works. Once all the 6 heroes are acknowledged, a huge power gained by Xbalanque from Renova will be unleashed, albeit only once. As you can already guess, Renova is also the person who established the rules of NATLAN and the Oath of Resurrection. After explaining all this, Mabuika asks the Traveler and Paimon to get some rest. With Oran acknowledged by his ancient name, the Abyss will more than likely increase their frequency in their attacks. On our way back to the Weary Inn, we found the situation becoming more dire. Molani and Kachina are tending the wounded, while Shilonen has a hard time with the other craftsmen about their weapons and supplies. Citlali scolds Oran again as Oran continuously apologizes, but also explains his reasoning behind his actions. Citlali eventually lets him off the hook this time and compliments him for being a hero, but still saves the nagging for later. At night, while Paimon and the Traveler are resting, Shilonen and Citlali make their way to meet the Lord of the Night, Yohualtichutin. We learn that forging an ancient name will consume the life of the craftsman. Even so, Shilonen is willing to take the risk because she felt NATLAN owed the Traveler a debt by saving Kachina and helping them fend off the Abyss. As for Citlali, she reveals a revelation she saw. Looking at the fate of the Pyro Archon is a taboo, but she did it regardless, and what she saw was Mabuika will die in their battle against the Abyss. Himeko everyone, it's Himeko again. Because the power gained from the Ruler of Death, the price needed to be paid by this power is also death. In order to prevent this from happening, Citlali wants the Traveler to obtain the ancient name, because she knows that a descender can change this fate. However, Yohualtichutin reminds Citlali that fate and death work differently, because while fate is predetermined, death is a rule. While the Traveler can alter the fate of Mabuika's death, it simply will occur no matter what, and Mabuika has long accepted this. Of course, both Shilonen and Citlali are unable to accept this, and promise themselves to keep both Mabuika alive and find a way to extend Yohualtichutin's life. Yohualtichutin then gives Citlali and Shilonen a scroll that records all of Traveler's and Paimon's deeds in NATLAN, therefore allowing Shilonen to forge the Traveler's ancient name. The next day, Shilonen and Citlali give the scroll to the Traveler. As long as the Traveler keeps this scroll with them, their adventures in NATLAN will be recorded, whether it's from the past, present, or future. Kachina then comes rushing into the Weary Inn and informs everyone that the Abyss have started an all-out attack. Mabuika informs everyone that the Abyss has become more desperate. It knows that NATLAN is one hero short, causing their attacks to become more frequent. In order for everyone to travel fast, Mabuika has prepared a few hot air balloons for them to travel. Mabuika has sent messengers from Science of the Canopy to update them for their next move. As for the Traveler and Paimon, Mabuika assigned them to help with anyone as much as possible. The war has finally begun. For gameplay purposes, you're allowed to change your team whenever you need to, but you cannot change your team normally with the hotkeys nor menu. So be sure to read the description of your destination first, because each destination also gives you different buffs and also different outcomes. Your choice matters because it also determines who you can save and who you have to sacrifice. The Abyssal Corrosion menu also tells you how much the Abyss have taken over NATLAN, the status of the ley lines, the number of enemies, and the number of deaths. In addition, you can check on status within other areas that you cannot help. I have to be straightforward with you all, there is no low relevancy that I can talk about in the 2 hours of this section. but I can tell you how the war has affected me as a player. I am using the Nilo Bloom team because not only it's one of the quickest teams to clear mobs, but also one of the safer ones given you have both healing and damage at the same time. This is from my own POV, and since your choice matters, our story might be different. It first started up quite easy. The enemies were relatively squishy and things were going pretty well. The dialogue seems fine at first, but there are a few NPCs that were terrified of the battle because of course, this is the worst abyssal invasion they ever had so far. For the choice I made, I saved a warrior and his mother who is a doctor, continue on saving merchants and help Fatui soldiers on the eastern side of the map. Everyone starts to short on supplies. There are many soldiers, merchants, and civilians alike that are wounded because of the abyssal attacks. After that, I went to the stadium to help the soldiers nearby, with the abyssal corrosion getting even worse and the sky starting to turn dark. The amount of monsters and the amount of deaths are rising. While on my break, we are attacked again, and this time, the abyssal pylons are spawning rapidly. In the most unfortunate ways, the abyss have grown desperate, and bigger in numbers.
고마워.
점점 심각해지는군. 우선 여길 지키며 사람들을 보호한다.
허무와 혼돈, 저게 바로 심연인가?
저쪽도 지금이 절호의 기임을 아는 거지.
성화는 어쩌지?
불의 신이 이미 갔어.
With the help of the Gnosis, Mavuika is able to keep the sacred fire burning a little bit longer, causing the source of the abyss to fly away somewhere else. However, that doesn't change the fact that the abyss has grown stronger with the portal that suddenly appears and is floating up in the sky. While Kinich tries to get closer to investigate that thing, I go somewhere else to see if anyone else needs help. The background music changed drastically. Even the battlefield music sounds more grim than how it used to be. On my first rescue, I was able to help some Saurians in their battle, and they were able to get to the stadium safely. However, a new enemy appears, and this abyssal enemy is able to mimic other life forms and even summon more enemies in the battle. If not taken care of first, it will make the battle even harder, which it did, because this thing is very tanky in so many ways. Seeing some Saurians die on the battlefield really breaks my heart, and just like the travel said, this is not a disaster, this is war. I then went somewhere near the Science of the Canopy that I visited earlier. Thankfully, I was able to save some people, but a lot of soldiers died in the process with only one remaining. Some of the civilians volunteered themselves to fight in the battlefield despite having no prior experience in the battle. I then head to the north near the Flower Feather clan, and no one survived the abyssal attack. Everyone died, no one remains. The final area I went to is the Children of Echoes, where the warriors kept on fighting and continued to go on, despite their significant amount of loss in manpower. But then, it gets even worse. That abyssal thing from the sky suddenly sent down something to the people of the springs. It acts just like an abyssal pylon, but even worse, I can't get rid of it. Even so, there's an battle insult that I got nearby, unfortunately from a corpse, and continued my journey from there. The abyssal influence has gone dire, and the death counts keep on rising to a number that I cannot even believe. Looking at the area just gets even worse, with more monsters coming out of that stone. Signs of the canopy is now a huge wreck, corpses are lying everywhere, and the whole NATLAN is dominated by the abyss. It's almost as if there's no way to recover from this, and it sucks. Even seeing some members from Children of Echoes give me snacks really made it worse because they know they're fighting in a losing battle. After the evacuation is complete, Kinj finally comes with the intel he promised. The thing that fell from the source of the abyss fell everywhere, even the Collective of Plenty, to which is the farthest tribe from the stadium. But the worst affected tribe is the Flower Feather clan, Chaska's tribe, and Koichi was still resting from her injury following the Fatsui a few days ago. With that said, I went on my way to the Flower Feather clan, but Chaska and Koichi were able to flee and were at the outskirts of the stadium. However, Koichi did not make it, and we were too late despite using the Traveler's ability to purify the abyss inside Koichi. The abyssal contamination from Chaska's body became haywire, but she is able to control it. But then, her ancient name acknowledges her, with Menelek appearing before her. My life's suffering shall be my epitaph, to remember the pain I endured and finally transcended. Fuka meaning transcession. The final hero has finally awakened, Chaska of Flower Feather clan. I just want to say, this scene broke me even more. Even just reading this script, it really reminds me of how painful that is, especially when Menelek said, "My life's suffering shall be my epitaph." Saying that to someone who is grieving is it's quite something, but I suppose it is something to save a nation. Still, it is heavy, I have to say. After taking Koichi's body to the stadium, Mavuika can finally proceed with the plan. It is time to end this tragedy once and for all.
하나로 단결하여
회고의 불에 세례를 받고
축복이란 이름을 진 채
힘의 진리를 깨달으며
헌신의 운명을 받아들이고 초월의 불꽃을 맞이하리라.
나타를 위하여!
나타를 위하여!
불의 마신 하보림의 이름으로 밤 사냥꾼 전쟁을 선포한다. 전쟁이 끝날 때까지 환원 씨가 모든 생명을 보호할 것이다.
With Mavuika's plan finally starting to go in motion, the Ode of Resurrection will protect everyone in NATLAN whether they have an ancient name or not, and there will be no more casualties from now on. With her help, we are able to destroy the Abyssal Tumor, or the game calls it as Mark of Gosothoth. The Abyssal influence has somewhat weakened, and the amount of deaths have been reduced. The Abyss have realized the Ode of Resurrection is the game changer, and have decided to attack the stadium in order to destroy the Sacred Fire. With that said, everyone heads to the stadium for the final battle, along with other warriors. For NATLAN they defend, and for NATLAN they will die. This is the final battle, and this is the final straw. With the biggest Night Warden wars they have done, everyone made their biggest victory feast along the way. Everyone celebrates and also mourns for the loss. The Abyss faces devastating defeat and will not be able to invade again for a very long time. However, in order to vanquish the Abyss for good, Mavuika decides to head to their lair, and this time, she is going there alone. Because her power was amplified by the Pyro Throne, she is unable to take that power for too long, otherwise her body will decay, so we won't be able to see that power again in the future. The Ode of Resurrection now function normally and only affect ancient name bearers instead of everyone. But even so, Night Warden wars are over, at least for a very long time. Mavuika wishes for eternal peace for NATLAN, and if the plan goes as planned, NATLAN will no longer need to face the Abyss in the future. Mavuika invites the Traveler to join her in the final battle, but until then, Mavuika gives us some time to rest and we can discuss them in the Speaker's Chamber the next day. The next day, as we are about to meet Mavuika, Citlali stops us and tells them about Mavuika Zen. Because Citlali knows that only the Traveler can alter Mavuika's fate, she asks the Traveler to help her find a way to keep Mavuika alive until the very end, despite Renova's step of death. In any case, Citlali asks us to keep this a secret from Mavuika. In the meantime, Mavuika once again meditates and meets past heroes of NATLAN. She remembers her life before she became an Archon and how everyone shows their support for their new leader. We even see Renova and Xabalanca's conversation. With Renova's help, she established the rules of NATLAN by creating the Ode of Resurrection, but this was not enough for Xabalanca. He demanded more from the Ruler of Death, and even she herself referred to Xabalanca as the greediest human she ever met. Something interesting was also stated in this conversation. If you are to make the Natlanis alone bear the consequences of a broken world, you will have to bring more to the bargaining table. Does this mean that Natlan was meant to face the Abyss from the very start? Is Natlan meant to be a defense line for Teyvat? In any case, Renova ended up giving her power to Xabalanca with price and terms needed to be done. First of all, death is the price Renova demanded. Secondly, being a shade means she overstepped her authority and she wants to keep their conversation a secret. If she is questioned by the heavenly principles, she will deny all involvement and will blame it all to Xabalanca. With that said, their deal has been made. Back to the real world, Mavuika proposes to the Traveler to join her in the final battle against the Abyss after his ancient name is complete. The Abyss has retreated to the depths of the Night Kingdom, where the place has been corrupted by the Abyss for a very long time. Thankfully, because Mavuika released the power from the Divine Throne yesterday, she was able to clean some of the corruption away. In any case, the ancient name is needed for the Traveler in order to keep him alive if anything goes wrong in their battle. However, because only the Traveler gets the ancient name, Paimon won't be able to join the battle because the Abyss might target her instead. Something tells me that we will learn more about Paimon's identity in the next Archon quest, but that's just a hunch. Mavuika then gives us time to answer questions, and this is where the second round of Lore Nuclear starts. The war's aftermath made a huge mess for NATLAN, but thankfully, because everyone is determined, they were able to revive and rebuild each tribe by working together. Some were still grieving, but given the situation, that's understandable. As for the 6 heroes of old, what we saw was not their soul, but rather a snapshot of their former self from 500 years ago. They made special modifications to their ancient name. Their souls returned to the Night Kingdom long ago, and by now have lived different lives in a different way. Perhaps to Mavuika, this gives another layer that no one fights alone. As for Capitano, Mavuika reveals that Capitano's arrival is perhaps not only to defend NATLAN. In any case, he doesn't seem to pose any threat to NATLAN so far, and Mavuika believes that Capitano has no ill intent either. Finally, the fake sky. Ever since Simulanka... No. Perhaps 4.7 where the Imaginary Theater was released, I have theorized that NATLAN will reveal the truth behind the fake sky at some point. So seeing it finally proven true really makes me happy. Perhaps Wanderer is also smugging at Academia right now. I told you so, losers. Anyways, Mavuika reveals that she knew about the rumors. However, the Adventurers Guild also revealed that the fake sky phenomena nor the fragments we saw outside of it never happened in other nations. In fact, no one has ever seen it before. So, NATLAN was indeed the first proof of its existence. It is evident that the Heavenly Principles are indeed hiding something, and that Shattered Fragment seems to be one of them. Fearing that this might anger the Heavenly Principles, the Traveler and Paimon assures Mavuika that she will be fine. Given that the destruction of the Hydro Throne literally made Fontaine still safe and sound until this day. After the Archon quest, we can see the shadow pieces again near the skies of the Flower Feather clan, and I have many theories regarding to this, so be sure to stay tuned for that video. But just like Mavuika said, this needs more research, so until then, we'll just have to wait and see for the truth to surface later on. After our Q&A session, we see Capitano talk with Yohualte Chutin. This conversation revealed that Capitano was sent by Renova on a long journey, given that he knows Renova's rules for demanding Mavuika's death as a price needed to be paid. Capitano then asks Yohualte Chutin for help in order to fight his final foe to ensure Natlan's safety. The final scene pans to a hut near the stadium, filled with flowers of the fallen heroes. This is where the Act 4 of Natlan's Archon quest officially ends. I remember writing this script like 4 AM. I am exhausted, and this video is a very long time coming, but given the situation, I cannot really do that. You can read my community post if you really want to know what happened to me. But even so, I do enjoy making this script a lot because I love the pacing of this Archon quest. Not only did we get our theories confirmed and debunked, but all questions were answered, yet we left with even more questions. What is the fake sky? Is Columbina confirmed to be a Seelie? If the Traveler's ancient name is complete, would that mean he is no longer the sender? And one question that remains in my mind, is Teyvat part of Honkai Star Rail's solar system? I know that last question is wild, but I have a very strong evidence that can back me up. In any case, if you're still here, thank you so much for watching this long video, and thank you so much for your patience. It really means a lot to me. Please consider giving this video a like and comment because that helps this channel a lot. Subscribe so you won't miss any videos, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Jana!